Day 2. Woods. Also known as the Rolling Explorer, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Part 1 of my Dublin miniseries was incredibly dramatic. Luckily, day 2 was much more laid back and fun. If you want to see how this amputee travels around to a new city, then stay tuned. I got all of the details still to come. I feel very privileged and grateful that my parents put such an emphasis on traveling around when I was a kid. I have so many memories and so many life lessons to take away from this time. But if there's one thing that is really always stuck with me, it's that you should always book a hotel with a free breakfast. When I travel, I am notorious for trying to squeeze as much sightseeing into whatever amount of time I am given in a space as possible. This means that snack breaks or even stopping for lunch is really not on my agenda. Luckily, I was able to convince Cass to go along with my plan, and so we loaded up at the hotel breakfast buffet and prepared for a full day out on the town. Also, a little side note here, but it was approximately 9:30 in the morning, and Cass was already so unbelievably done with me and my vlogging. Thanks, Cass, for putting up with me. Love you. Our hotel was in an amazing location. We stayed at the Hilton City Center, which literally was about a 5 to 10 minute walk from pretty much everything that we wanted to do. From the Jameson Distillery tour on day 1, go watch that video if you haven't yet, to day 2 where we were going to the Dublin Castle and Trinity College. Even though we didn't need to leave a half hour early, I always like to make sure that there's a little bit of wiggle room in case we get lost, in case we want to take pictures along the way, in case we see something really cool. Just, give us time to wander and explore a little bit, which is exactly what we did. The first half of the walk was a little less than exciting, but as soon as we got to the bridge that crossed the river Liffey, I believe, that's when things really started to get interesting. I mean, just look at this stunning building. We didn't know this until later, but this was the Christchurch Cathedral. And in this moment, I thought it was so pretty that I already told Cass we're coming back as soon as we're done with our tour at the Dublin Castle. I will just say that one thing that Cass and I both noticed pretty quickly as soon as we left the hotel was how difficult it was to maneuver around as a wheelchair user. There were so many cobblestones, and where there weren't cobblestones, there was uneven pavement everywhere. Honestly, the sidewalks were just a mess. And as if the sidewalks weren't already enough to manage, on the other side of the bridge leading to the Dublin Castle, there was this huge, very steep hill that Cass had to muscle me up. I'll be honest, my internalized ableism is still trying to make me feel bad about that. But instead of feeding into the guilt with this video, I just want to give Cass a massive round of applause for handling it like a champ. Once again, a huge thank you, Cass, for being a great friend. You are amazing. I love you. Thank you. Speaking of cobblestones, the Dublin Castle was surrounded by them. The Dublin Castle was constructed in the 13th century, so it is quite old. But apparently, in the last 700 years, no one has thought to resurface the pavement. Or at least make it slightly more functional? I don't know, I doubt that those cobblestones were 700 years old, but my goodness, they were not designed with wheelchair users in mind, that is for sure. So as you can imagine, getting into the building was quite a feat. But once inside, everything was really easy to navigate. So we had booked a self-guided tour of the staterooms, which were upstairs, but they did have a lift. So in case anybody wanted further proof that there is no excuses for accessibility not to be a thing in 2022, this 13th century building had a lift. If renovations can be made to this incredibly historic building in Ireland, then I promise you, you can add a lift to your building. You can add a ramp to your building. You can make necessary changes to your building. But anyway, historical and cultural attractions like this one are what excite me most as a traveler. So even though we didn't have a guided tour, I thoroughly enjoyed just roaming around and reading all of the little signs and plaques that told the story of the space. One room in particular that stood out to me was the Hall of Irish Presidents. Something I immediately took note of was the fact that there's been 2 female presidents in the last few decades in Ireland. Now, I know many other countries around the world have had female leaders, but as an American, I've yet to see it in my own country. And so every time I see that, I just become more awestruck and more encouraged that hopefully one day soon the US will follow suit. But another reason why I think the Hall of Presidents stood out to me so much is because I had a very embarrassing moment occur while in the hall. So I hardly ever get phone calls that I don't know about in advance. So unbelievably, while in the Hall of Presidents in the Dublin Castle, my phone starts going off. The call isn't from a contact of mine, so I actually debated whether or not I was gonna pick it up, but I decided it might be one of my doctors, so it's probably best that I just take the call really quick. And thank goodness I did, because it was the Hamilton box office confirming whether or not I still wanted the Hamilton tickets that we had booked for 2 days later back in London. Long story short, I had to go through this whole process where I had to prove that I was actually disabled in order to get the tickets. Well, I didn't pass the checks, but they said that for this one show, they would let me come anyway, that they believed me, but they just didn't have the right documentation. I don't know. It was all happening on the phone, and I was very distracted because I noticed that my voice was echoing around the Hall of Presidents. So all the other tourists were probably very bothered by yours truly. So I'm trying to rush this conversation as much as possible because I feel bad that I'm probably ruining this experience for other people just like me. But the Hamilton box office just has so many questions and they end up needing to take payment from me. So I'm in this very echoey room and they want me to give my debit card number over the phone. To say I was unenthused to have to do this would be an understatement. I did try to exit the room, but it wasn't any less echoey in the next room. So what I ended up doing to try to maintain some level of privacy with my financial information was curling up in a corner, literally bending over myself and whispering into my phone. I must have looked nuts, but it ended up being fine. They got my card number, payment went through, we got the tickets, and the call probably only lasted a few minutes. But I will just say, if you were in Dublin Castle on the same day as me and you happen to hear a debit card number being read aloud, please, 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 please do not steal my money. There's not much there anyway, but like, please don't take the little bit that I have. Any hoozles, aside from the cobbles outside, the experience was very accessible. We had a really great time. I really liked this one hall that had all of these mirrors in it. There was a room with this huge throne and just like a lot of really pretty art on the walls that I thoroughly enjoyed learning and reading about and just enjoyed watching and looking at them and all of the things. So it was a really great tour, and if you're going to Dublin, I 10 of 10 recommend it. Also, this is not about the Dublin Castle, but I just want to take a moment for both Cass and I's outfits of the day because, oh my goodness, we look fabulous. I feel like I personally am finally starting to recognize the importance of being practical while traveling, but also still maintaining a certain level of cuteness and fashion and all of those sorts of things. If you want to learn more about the outfits I wore around Dublin, be sure to head to my Instagram, hit the follow button, and check on there because I will be going into a deep dive of everything I wore while abroad. Fun fact about me, I love a church. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not the most religious person on the planet, but when traveling, especially in Europe, I love visiting cathedrals. They are literally so freaking stunning. And regardless of how you feel about Christianity, there is so much history and culture embedded into cathedrals. Plus, the artwork is usually next level. So when we passed by that Christchurch cathedral from before, remember? Yeah, throwback. I knew that I had to go back. Because our next tour wasn't until 2:30 in the afternoon and we had like 3 hours to kill, I asked Cass to take me back so that I could see the pretty cathedral. And we were all gung-ho to go in until we got to the ticket counter and we found out it was gonna cost us 10 euros each to get inside. Now, at the end of the day, is 10 euros really that much money? No. Those of you that don't know, at the time of our travel, 10 euros was about the equivalent of 8.5 pounds or 10 US dollars. But Cass and I were traveling on a budget and we had already maxed out all of our spending. And especially since we were able to get the Hamilton tickets in the end, literally less than an hour ago, we just decided it wasn't worth the 10 euro each. So We sat in the courtyard instead and just admired the outside of it and just really enjoyed the beautiful weather of the day. Oh, we thought, why don't we finally try to get a photo together? See, here's the thing. Cass and I have been best friends for over a decade. Yet when we're together, we hardly ever take pictures together. I don't know what it is, I don't know why, but the amount of good quality photos that Cass and I have together is so shockingly small. So we had made it our mission that while Cass was visiting me in London, or while we were in Dublin together, we were going to get at least one good quality picture together. So we approached these two young women who looked like they would be capable enough with a phone to get us a good enough quality picture that we can share to reminisce about our time in Dublin. Here's an example of one of the photos we got. In case you couldn't tell, it's not very good. My chair's in the foreground. It's not okay. We're not thrilled with it. But you know what? It's fine. We took a selfie and we just decided that we would ask somebody at Trinity when we got there later in the afternoon. After our failed photo shoot attempt, we didn't hang around the courtyard much longer and we actually made our way to Trinity. We figured maybe they'll let us into the tour early if we show up early. So we made our way in that direction. But on the way there, we broke my no stop rule because Cass needed a boost of caffeine. Now I do get it. She was pushing me around. She was dealing with my chaotic energy. I understand, but it did break my rule. And you best bet that I did not get anything out of principle. And we stopped at a Krispy Kreme. I very easily could have gotten a donut, guys. And trust me, they were calling to me. But I sat there and I was like, nope, not gonna happen. And it didn't. Once Cass finished her drink, we made the rest of the way to Trinity College. And guys, this campus was beautiful. It instantly reminded me of my own alma mater, the University of Notre Dame, because of all the green space, all the tourists, all the old buildings that all look like one another. Like I said, very Notre Dame, but it was seriously so pretty. At this point, we were still about 90 minutes early for our tour. So we were doing anything and everything that we could to fill out that space. But we ended up giving up and just saying, you know what? We're gonna go to the entrance of our tour and hope they let us in early. And as a matter of fact, they did! They let us in about an hour early, which was so nice of them. Cass and I had bought tickets to go see the Book of Kells and the Old Library at Trinity College, Dublin. And I will just say, this was the most expensive tour of everything that we did in Dublin. It cost us nearly 20 euros each. And now that I've done it, was it worth it? Yes and no. First of all, the Book of Kells bit was very confusing. Cass and I really struggled to wayfind our way through the space. There was no clear path or any sort of direction to follow, so it felt like we constantly had to circle back on ourselves in order to pick up all the puzzle pieces that we were missing. Seriously, we walked around for 10 minutes, went back to the front twice before we even figured out what the Book of Kells was. It's a gospel, by the way. Then, as if that wasn't confusing enough, we couldn't find a lift to go up to the Book of Kells viewing area. So this big ancient book, it's this huge cultural phenomenon of Ireland. They had it actually there and you could go see it, but you had to go upstairs to see it. But the website had said that everything was step-free, so we just didn't know what was going on. Turns out there was a small lift, but it was behind the actual exhibit, so you needed a staff member to get to it. And Cass and I stood at the bottom of the stairs for a good few minutes and no staff members were in sight. So what did we have to do? Go all the way back to the front again to get a staff member, who then told us that there should be a staff member at the bottom of the stairs, which we already know there wasn't. But luckily, he went with us and was able to flag down the staff member. We got in the lift, which was small, by the way, and went up to view the Book of Kells. But I'll be honest, this old book, as amazing as I'm sure it is, was not the reason we spent $18.50 on these tickets. No. The reason we spent $18.50 on these tickets was for the second half of the tour, which was the old library at Trinity College. From the Book of Kells viewing area, you then had to go behind this staircase in order to get to the main lift that would take you up to the library. I don't want to complain about accessibility because at least there was a lift there, but you could tell that all of the accessibility was put in as a massive afterthought to any other sort of construction, including the exhibit itself. But again, at least it was there. Thank goodness that I could access this space because it was such a freaking highlight of my trip to Dublin. I would 100% pay €18.50 again just to spend more time in the old library. While the old library was not used in any of the Harry Potter films, it looks like it came right out of Hogwarts. Seriously, y'all, it is one of the most stunning spaces I have ever been in. My English major book-loving soul just felt so at peace in this space. I genuinely felt like a real-life Belle from Beauty and the Beast. This was my safe haven. This was my palace. This was my zone. And if I could have stayed in there all day reading a book, you best bet your butt I would have. But sadly, I didn't have a book with me. I just had my phone. And so instead, I enjoyed taking lots and lots of photos and videos of the space so that I can hold on to the memory forever. If you're in Dublin, I cannot recommend this enough. The ticket might be expensive and the Book of Kells situation might not be perfect, but the library more than makes up for it. So gorgeous. Cass and I actually ended up sitting in the library for a good half an hour, just chatting with one another. We took some selfies, we had a good time just catching up and really relaxing into the space. Once we left, we decided it was once again time for us to try to get another photo together. So we found a very pretty backdrop and actually didn't have to ask anybody. What I can only assume was an actual Trinity student approached us and said, "Hey, do you two want a photo together?" It's like she read our minds. And of course we said yes, and this girl gets an A+ degree from me in iPhone photography skills because look at this photo, look at it. We finally have an updated picture that we both like, that we both can use, that we both are proud of, and it's all because this girl offered to take our picture. So whoever you are, thank you. You saved us a massive headache for the rest of the trip. The rest of our afternoon was spent taking a self-guided tour of the Trinity College campus. It was nice, but I'll be honest and say that if you're a tourist, you're probably not gonna like it as much as a prospective student will. It definitely seemed to be selling the university as a place to study rather than a tourist attraction. And there were still funny anecdotes and funny stories included, but it focused a lot on the academics. So we actually only got about halfway through before we, 1, got lost, and 2, decided, you know what? It's getting colder outside. There are clouds rolling in. Why don't we stop? Now, it wasn't exactly dinner time, but since we'd eaten so early in the morning and not had lunch or a snack or anything like that, we were both hungry. And like I said, the weather was beginning to get a little bit questionable. So we decided to go to the Hard Rock Cafe and have a nice big dinner to celebrate a fantastic day. I mean, honestly, look at this legendary burger. It was so luxurious. And as if that wasn't enough, Cass and I decided to order a big brownie hot fudge sundae thing. And when I tell you that this thing was massive, just look at it. We were splitting it and we still could not finish it. It was intense, but it was also delicious. By the time we finished eating, it looked like it could start raining at any second, so we decided to get our souvenir shopping out of the way and stop into a little corner shop and look around. Cass got a lot of wonderful gifts for herself and her family, and I thought it'd be fun to show you guys what I got in Dublin. So first of all, ever since I was a little girl, I've been collecting keychains. Pretty much every place I've gone since the age of 7, I have a keychain from there. And so I had to get one from Dublin, obviously. And I opted for this one. It says a little Irish luck on it and Ireland on the back. It's in the shape of a 4-leaf clover, and I just thought it was really precious. So I got it. Jack and I have also begun a collection of our own, and we started getting fridge magnets. So I got this one that says Dublin on it and has this little like bouncy 4-leaf clover thing at the bottom. And then I also saw this cute little black sheep that I just couldn't pass up. And plus it was a special deal that if you bought 2, you got like some money off or something like that. I don't know, but I couldn't let this pass me by. I had to get it. Just look at him, he's so cute. And then finally, the last little thing I got was for Jack. And it's this leprechaun rubber duck, which is kind of an inside joke between him and I, but I don't know. I had to get it. It's really cute. It's really funny. There you go. Since we now had all of these little gifts and trinkets, plus our leftovers from the restaurant, we decided to head back to the hotel and make plans for the rest of the night. But just 30 minutes after we got inside, it started pouring down rain, and it didn't stop the rest of the night. And Cass and I were already quite tired, and so the idea of going out was already feeling kind of more like a chore anyway, and with the rain, it just wasn't gonna happen. So instead, we had ourselves a proper girls' night. We went down to the hotel bar, each got ourselves a drink and a candy bar because of course we did, and then we made camp in the bed up in our hotel room, watched the first Twilight movie, and reminisced about all of the amazing memories we've made over the years. Honestly, I could not think of a more perfect ending to a perfect day. And guys, that's essentially it. We flew home at 3 p.m. the next day, which meant we got to the airport by noon. And while we'd originally planned to do a bit more exploration that morning, we ended up continuing our conversation from the night before and just chatting over breakfast instead. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that it showed you how normal of a life disabled people like myself can lead even while traveling if given the right accessibility and support. Honestly, this mini travel vlog series was such a joy to film and provide commentary for and to edit. I had such a good time with it, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, I would love it if you could give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Feel free to tell me a travel story of your own or provide suggestions for future content you'd like to see right here on YouTube. Speaking of future content, I have a lot more exciting stuff coming your way before the end of the year. So be sure to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you never miss a future upload. And with all of that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye!